Hi and welcome to Across the Desk. This week we're going to discuss something that came out last week, and that was a donation that happened in December by Senator James Lankford to Lindsey Graham's leadership PAC. Now, it's not because Senator James Lankford is all about Lindsey Graham. It has way more to do with saving James Lankford's own butt than anything else. Now, a little backstory on this week's episode. See, Lindsey Graham has been forced to testify before a grand jury about election interference in 2020. So what Lindsey Graham did was raise about $80,000 off of 9 Republican senators. How did he do this? Well, I'm pretty sure he went to them and said, hey, you either donate to my leadership PAC so I can hire some lawyers, or you guys are going down with me too, because you see, people like Senator James Lankford, they're traitors. Because on January 6th, James Lankford tried to pull a soft coup before the violence happened. Before it all happened, before all that went down at the Capitol and the insurrection, James Lankford went to the podium and tried to return electoral votes to these swing states. Now, not only the swing states, and we all know why, because what they wanted to do was send those back, send in these faux electors in that weren't Joe Biden electors, and then run the clock out and go, he's already president, we got a guy, it's over. And that was basically the whole plan. Pull a soft coup, disenfranchise millions of voters, and just keep Trump as president. As James Lankford came out and even said in an email he sent out on the January 7th, 2021, James Lankford, in a rush, sent out a letter because he was in a panic. You see, he tried to pull a soft coup. And during his speech on the podium, they stormed the Capitol. During the speech. Well, after it was all over, he came back and said, hey, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to certify this election because I don't want to be tied in with the violence. He didn't want to be tied in with the violence that he helped create. So, in a way, he kind of just backpedaled and say, hey, I don't want to touch this. I was way more willing to do it as a soft coup, but he threw the violence in. And he said so much in a letter he sent out to his constituents on the 7th. He said in there, hey, look, I have friends that were telling me to forget the law and the Constitution and just find a way to save the presidency for Trump. So there you have it. James Lankford, if not exactly his friends, are absolute traitors to our country. They wanted to jettison the Constitution and the rule of law and just keep Trump as a dictator. That's exactly what they tried to do, because when you look at what happened during the committee hearings that they had, it all came out. Hey, on December 12th, all these committees, 2 of them James Lankford was on, got the reports that the election was totally legitimate. All the investigations were done, even by Republicans, and they came in and said, hey, this was a legitimate election. Joe Biden won. He really did. And James Lankford absolutely knew that on the 12th of December, 2020. But what did James Lankford do? Well, he was pressured by his friends to just keep Trump president anyway, anyhow. And that's exactly what James Lankford tried to do. And he did it for a whole month. Kept the whole charade going. Hey, we need to send these electors back to these swing states. Only the swing states, because they didn't vote the way he wanted them to. Well, this is getting James Lankford in a lot of trouble. Because, yeah, he is a traitor. That's exactly what happened. So now Lindsey Graham, as you know, went in, made a phone call to Georgia asking, hey, how can we help Trump win? And that's basically what Lindsey Graham did. So Lindsey Graham, he's forced to testify before a grand jury. He's forced to get lawyers, and those lawyers cost money. So Lindsey Graham went to 9 Republicans and said, hey, you need to donate to my leadership PAC from my legal fund. And James Lankford gave him $10,000. Him and 6 others gave $10,000, the highest amount given by anybody to Senator Lindsey Graham's leadership PAC, just to pay for legal fees for this election interference grand jury thing that he's going through. Now, you're sitting there, why would James Lankford give Lindsey Graham 10 grand for his defense team. I mean, does he like the guy? Are they really close? Does he really pally-pally with him? No, absolutely not. They're not. So that tells you something. The reason James Lankford gave up $10,000 is because James Lankford's butt is also on the line. It is. You can look at it from what he did at that podium, from the date he knew that the election was legitimate. All of it. All the way up to when the actual violence happened and his soft coup went down. Because that's really what makes James Lankford angry with his own people is, you guys, you started this violence and I didn't get to do my thing. He even puts it in the letter. He talks about how, man, you know, we were going to do all this and we had this whole plan in place and then our own people messed it up by causing violence at the Capitol. Oh, I can't believe these people. We almost had a soft coup going on, which is still treason. Even if it wasn't by violence, that's treason. So James Lankford, in his letter he was in a really big rush to put out, says, hey, I didn't do the violence. I was more than willing to pull this soft coup without the violence. See, he's all right, a good guy, didn't want to hurt nobody. I just wanted to steal an election and forget the rule of law and the Constitution. See, I'm not a bad guy, I'm just a traitor. And that's exactly what James Lankford did. So here we go. Lindsey Graham telling his friends, you got to give me some cash, because I'm almost positive that's what Lindsey Graham told him. Hey James, why don't you give some money to my leadership PAC to pay for these lawyers, because if I'm going down, you are too. I'm almost positive that's how that happened. I'm almost positive how that conversation went down when he asked Senator James Lankford for the money to pay for his own lawyer fees. Got 80 grand to do this from 9 Republican senators, who are all a bunch of traitors, obviously. This is John Barrasso from Wyoming, is a guy who gave $10,000. Mike Crapo of Indiana gave $10,000. John Hoeven of North Dakota gave $10,000. John Boozman and Steve Daines gave $10,000. Shelley Moore gave $8,000. Chuck Grassley and Senator Kevin Cramer gave $5,000 each. Those are the totals from these people. And we know Grassley, yeah, he was involved in some of this. He tried to spin this so many different ways so they could send electors back to the states, have these faux electors sent in, and then at the end of the day, if everything didn't go their way, they were just going to run out the clock to go, well, we need these more investigations, and then after the 20th of January, we'll keep Trump president, and then we'll keep this thing going on through the summer and the fall, and then by that time it'll be too late. And by that time we'll run the clock out, and they'll go, oh, hey, it was a legitimate election, and then we can go, well, we already got a president. Trump, he's been in here for a while, we can just let him go now, that'll cause so much chaos, right? So that was the whole goal. They had a plan A and a plan B. Plan A was to send those faux electors back, do some kind of rigmarole to get those faux electors in and have them voted. Or that was plan A. Hey, here you go, we got these faux electors in now, they voted in Trump, it's over. The other plan is to just run the clock out through the fall and say, well, I got a president, too late, you'll have to wait till next time. So that was the whole plan, but it kind of got foiled by their own guys, their own people, their own conservatives who Trump riled up to go to the Capitol and fight like hell, which is what they did. And that kind of killed the soft coup that James tried to perpetrate. It did, and even Lindsey Graham. It's because Lindsey Graham was calling, how did this all start? He was calling up Georgia, telling them, hey man, you need to make sure Trump wins. We're going to come down on you hard. You need to make sure stuff's happening. And what did they do in Georgia? Well, they held to their own. And they said, hey, this is improper. We need an investigation into Lindsey Graham, who could probably get in a lot of trouble for what he did. Because he did try to influence an election in Georgia, which he isn't from. He doesn't even, never lived in Georgia, doesn't even represent Georgia, but he's calling Georgia. I got a right to do that as a senator because, you know, my office allows me to look into things. And that's how he kind of put it, but it doesn't allow him to do this. This isn't looking into things. This is applying pressure to Georgia election officials to change the vote somehow so that Trump can win. Because see, Trump put up Lindsey Graham to it, of course. Because Trump is the kind of guy that doesn't do anything unless he's got something over you. He's not going to go after Lindsey Graham if he doesn't have anything on him. So Trump has stuff on Lindsey Graham. And Lindsey Graham's like, I don't want that out. Okay, Trump, I'll do your bidding. And he tried to do it. And now he's getting pumped for it by Georgia and can get in a lot of trouble for this. Obviously, he's having to spend $80,000 in lawyers' fees. And he's fleecing his own Republican members to give to his leadership PAC to pay for it. Of course, he's picking the ones that he knows are going to go down for treason if he goes down. I'm almost positive that's what he's done. It's such a Lindsey Graham move, to be like, hey man, give $10,000 to my leadership PAC, or I promise you're going down with me. Because you see, at the end of the day, James Lankford is a traitor. He's a traitor to our country. He tried to jettison the Constitution and forget the rule of law for his friends. Which brings up another great point. Who are these friends of James Lankford's that are telling him to forget the law and the Constitution and just find a way to keep Trump as the president? Who are these friends of James Lankford's? I think that's the investigation that needs to happen. Because they are obviously traitors. If you don't think James Lankford is a traitor, which I don't know, there's a body of evidence there, his friends absolutely are. And he implicates them and says, hey, I'm throwing my friends under the bus right here. They're the ones who told me to do this. It's exactly what James Lankford is doing. It's exactly where James Lankford is coming from. And it's exactly where James Lankford has been on this. See, James Lankford is a radical conservative extremist. You know this in his views. You know it. He wants a Christian, white, national country. That's what he wants. He is. He's a Christian, white nationalist. Absolutely. Thinks everything ought to be Christian here. What is that he said? He said, only godly men should serve. He's actually been quoted as saying that. Goes right against the principles of Article 6 of the Constitution, where there shall be no religious test to hold office or the public trust. James Lankford really doesn't believe in that. There's a lot in the Constitution he doesn't believe. Fourth Amendment protections, Fifth Amendment protections. The only thing James Lankford cares about is Amendment 2 for his buddies that vote for him, and Amendment 10 for states' rights when he can, get away with it. And that's pretty much it. Everything else he doesn't care about. He doesn't care about the process of how we elect electors. He doesn't obviously care about the process about how we elect senators and their jobs. He doesn't care about what's in the Constitution as far as it says these are the priorities of the executive branch. This is what the legislative branch does. He doesn't care about those. He wants to get rid of them. How our elections are handled, how people are voted in. Obviously, just about every bit of that Constitution scares him, and he wants to get rid of it. You see, because James is all about power and control. He wants to control it all. See, because just like Mo Brooks said, just like James Lankford agrees, it is the divine destiny for the USA to be controlled by conservatives in their interest. Pretty much what Mo Brooks said on January 6th. And this is the same type of rhetoric James Lankford agrees with. And that's exactly why Lindsey Graham has gone to James Lankford and said, hey man, you need to give me $10,000 for my lawyer fees, because I promise you, he's going to take him down with him if he goes down. That's just how Lindsey Graham is. And honestly, I think it would be the best thing ever. Lindsey Graham goes down, he takes everybody else with him, including James Lankford. Because when it comes to James Lankford, he's a traitor, just like his friends are. He should not be anywhere near the levels of government. What he should be doing is serving up to 20 in federal prison for sedition and treason. Now, this is Across the Desk, and we'll see you next week.